welcome back to a brand new video, and welcome to the channel if you are new. Today is where we talk about content on Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, or BOCW, or BOCW. Let's get right into it. This is what the settings are. If you guys are wanting to know how to get the quick scoping and everything that I've been using for a long time, these are the settings that you're going to have to use. If you are going for more of a more precise accuracy, it really depends on what your sensitivity was on the previous CODs, such as Modern Warfare. If you have been playing Modern Warfare and say you were on 20, you can stick on 14 sensitivity, absolutely no problem. It does feel a little bit different. It feels more like a dynamic response curve, which is a little bit of fix. There are a little bit of bugs and stuff that do need to be fixed in the game, but let's get right into it. So first things first, you're gonna head over to your settings controller, okay? Push your left stick down to show the advanced, right? So you only can see this, and then you're just going to see at the bottom there, show advanced. Whatever your sensitivity is, the first thing that you need to do, if you play, say for instance 14 out of 20 then you're going to have to drop like 6 notches down from 14 on Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. It's the way it is. It's how it is. I've been getting used to 14 again, so I'm absolutely fine with it. I have been tweaking a little bit with the lows. You know, you're not sniping, you're going around with an MP5. If you actually hit X on it, you can input the actual numbers digitally instead of having going by 10 decimal points. So you could go 85 or 80. I'm just going to leave mine at 80 there. 85 seems to be my sweet spot, but you know, I'm playing it up. I'm tweaking it up here and there and see where it's going, and 8.5 seems to be good for me. 1 is really great for high zoom. I don't recommend changing it unless you feel like you need to, but honestly for high zoom, don't need to. Stick layout, hopefully you're on default. I don't know anybody that plays Legacy Southpaw or anything. If you are one of those players, make sure to comment down below in the comment section. For the button layout, you guys, for all the, you know, you have lefty, Charlie, hander, bumper, jumper, tactical, and stick and move. I've always been one to go down for tactical because crouching is immediately right there on your right stick, as well as sliding. The only difference is for drop shotting in this game. I recommend you absolutely do not drop shot in this game. The reason for it is because they've changed the animation. When you go to hit the ground, your hand is off the gun. So you go to hit the ground, then your hand goes back onto the gun. So you completely come out of ADS, you completely lose your gun for a second there, and then it goes back onto it. Same thing when you go stand up again. You have to put your hand on the ground, get up, grab your gun, and then you're going. That's kind of what that is. So I think, you know, people try to do power slides. There are power slides. They're a little bit hard to learn. You can also power jump too. Those involve things like diving boards on the map or anything that can increase your height vault. You can also leap over walls if you hold the jump button when you're going to leap. And we'll get down to that eventually in some video. But you know, if you are a person that likes to play claw, I recommend changing your flip L2 and R2 to L1 and R1 like PS3 controllers. If not, and you're using scuff, leave it on default. Invert, hopefully you don't do that, just leave it on disabled. Controller vibration, I turn that off because it's absolutely a necessity that you don't have those rumbles in your controller when you're trying to keep on target and everything, and all of a sudden you just have that visual effect of like a cinematic, you know, there's gunshots and stuff going on. It does get a little bit more, honestly, in the way when you're trying to play games. Controller sounds, honestly, it doesn't matter. I usually have this turned off at all times. And then you get down to what are the advanced options here as well, which is the maximum and minimum of your dead zones. Mine is left at 10, 99, 10, and 99. You could go 100, but honestly, this is good for me. And then we get down to the gameplay, which is also advanced settings as well. Slowdown and strafe aiming assist, so this is a little bit different. I feel like this does need to be nerfed consistently right now. The reason for that is I'm aiming on walls before, like, you know, like a doorway entrance. As a player coming to that door, it's already locking onto him, and he's locking onto the wall before I even get to see the target, right? So this is a problem, but what it does is slow down aim assist, slows down your sensitivity to your aim when you're on the targets, and it also affects your movement speed when you're aiming at targets to help you stay on target when you're strafing from side to side. It keeps you on target without moving the stick. It is kind of broken right now. And then you have airborne mantle. I honestly recommend you put this on manual. It's going to help you out a lot, so you don't have to automatically jump and climb things, which is going to be annoying in the later on time. Grounded mantle behavior is just on press. Auto move forward disabled, auto sprint disabled. They also remove tactical sprint. It's implemented in normal sprinting, so your character will sprint at maximum speed and then it eventually slows down over time. If you actually push it down really hard off the spot, then you get that immediate sprint. Sprint cancels reload disabled. You could put that enabled if you are one of those trick shotters. Go for it, but if not, disabled. Honestly, a double tap triangle is also another way of canceling reload. Sprint behavior is go to. Hold behavior, sniping. Equipment behavior is also hold. And then this one is also different. So you remember how you on Modern Warfare had your contextual tap? I recommend you have a similar authority. So you're going to be on tap to reload by default, but go as reload. So imagine standing next to a zipline on like Armada on the boats, or a weapons is dropped on the floor, you know, something like that, and you want to prioritize reloading. You just tap to reload. You don't have to hold it like you did on Modern Warfare when you have contextual tap. So prioritizing reload is a must on this game. I feel it's the best thing you can do. You also prioritize interact if you feel like you want to pick up weapons more than reload, but reload is the main way to go. So tap to reload, and then everything else when there are other things, such as when you want to reload. So everything will be tap, but when there are weapons on the floor, you tap to reload instead of having to hold it. Much better. Attack vehicle mode is also on aim base, so all you have to do is aim and it immediately locks onto it. I don't know how that works, but it's, well, it is, and that's all it is for the controller settings. Moving on to graphics, make sure safe bounds are set properly. An easy way to do this is if you have an Elgato capture card, you can actually look at the screen on the left hand side, not what you're actually looking at, and those should see the corners if you're doing that. Brightness, I highly recommend turning up your brightness again, because the maps like Miami, for instance, from BO2 map are really dark and they're hard to see. And by default, 50 is a really low number, and they only just recently added the 3 categories from not visible, barely visible, and easily visible. But I highly recommend you go to somewhere between 60 and 75, and they're only say 75 at most, is because over 75 you can see on the very visible. You could also just go straight to 100 so you can see targets at all times. Honestly, you could, but honestly, I feel like it's not needed. I really am very comfortable with 70 here. Split screen, hopefully you're on horizontal, but it doesn't work. A bug with this one, holy moly. There is a things that are subject to change, things that need to be fixed as the game progresses. This is so that we can feedback to the developers so that they can fix the game to the way it should be and the way that it should be playing smoothly, no problem, no glitches, nothing like that. So motion blur, every time you get into a game on the alpha right now, it's going to automatically put it on enabled. As soon as you load up the match, it will go back to enabled. So you're going to have to go back into your settings in the game, go to graphics, and make sure motion blur is disabled every game you play, if you are wanting to turn it off, and I highly do recommend that. For audio, you can use everything now. I recommend that. For the best audio preset that I'm using is master volume at 100 or 1. Music, right down, all the way down to 0. You don't need it unless, as much as it is very awesome for gameplay wise and everything else, 0. Sound effects, 1. Dialogue, most people had it at 25 for Modern Warfare, but I think the announcer is a little bit harder to hear in this game. So if you are not too worried about wanting to hear them and you want to go down to 30 or 25, between 25 and 40 is a really good preset for that. So I'm going to stick on 30. Cinematics all the way down to 10. The other presets, 2 that I found really effective. Headphones, if you're just using normal headphones. If you're using Astros, put on high boost. Enabled. Voice chat, also you can disable that. And game filter, also you can just play around with those settings, but those are the ones. Subtitles, these can come in handy, especially if you hear like things like, you know, an enemy on the team around the corner and you just miss those very small things that enemies are saying. It's like, you know, reloading, tossing grenade, planting claymore. Those things will really help you. Or just small things like the announcer that you don't normally hear, especially because you have dialogue on very low. Subtitle size, I recommend you just leave it on normal. Subtitle backing out past 50%. And damage hit markers is on. I recommend you keep this as shown because it shows hit markers, score streaks, lethal hits, regular hits, everything. It's a must. And that pretty much brings it down. The next thing I highly recommend that you do before you do anything to get into the game properly is make sure your NAT type is either moderate or open. And I highly recommend trying to get an open NAT type as much as you can. I play wireless. I prefer wired. I've been on wired for a long time, so wireless is the way to go for me right now. However, some people on wired can only get a moderate NAT type, so try to get an open NAT type as much as possible. There are plenty of videos out there. If you guys need a guide on how to try and do that, I can try and make a guide for you. If not, that is the way it is. Bandwidth, you should have over 4,000 kilobytes or more. And that's about it. That is everything that you guys need to know about sensitivity, everything for quick scoping. Like I said earlier, if you are a person that is quick scoping, if you are the person that had 14 sensitivity out of 20 in Modern Warfare, you're going to go down by 5 or 6 notches. So you're going to go down to like between 10, 8 the lowest, 8 the lowest, and maybe about 12 the highest. I've been fluctuating a lot between 8 and 10 beforehand, but now I'm quick scoping and I got used to it again. I'm back on 14. I feel absolutely amazing. Without further ado, guys, that has been the setting. And I'll let you guys try it out for yourselves. Till the next video, guys. Peace out.